Hello, and thanks for watching. I wanted to make this video today and put it up because I have a story to tell about my health experience over the last year. I had some very bad health a year ago. That would have been in 2018, the spring of 2018. I was a big guy my whole life, and last year I weighed in over 300 pounds, probably around 310, 315 pounds as of this time last year. Today is May 3rd, 2019. Last June, I had health problems. Basically, I had a mild stroke. The symptoms came on a Friday morning. I woke up and I noticed that my right finger, when I put it on my mouse button, it would just automatically click on it without me trying to do it. And I thought that was weird. Okay, maybe I can just focus on that and improve it. I didn't think anything of it. Later that morning, I went to breakfast, and in the moment I went to give my order to the cashier, I had trouble speaking. I had slurred speech. Um, this was something that probably the cashier noticed. It definitely felt weird to me. I was a little alarmed, but I thought, okay, I'm just going to sit down at my table and maybe just try to quietly talk out to myself and make it better. And I did that, and it improved a little bit, but I had a stroke. I had a mild stroke. Later that day, I went and I bought a suit for a family funeral instead of, calling 911, instead of going right to the emergency room. So I didn't know any better, and I spent the whole weekend thinking I could just get a little bit better, and I did. The next day was a little bit better. I noticed improvement. I went to play that guitar right behind me there, and my fluidity of my playing was a little lacking. There was my middle finger again was just not pulling back the way that it should, the way that it normally would, even a day before. So that was alarming. I went into Sunday and I finally called a family member. I called my brother and I told him what happened, and I put a positive spin on it, like, okay, I've noticed this and I'm going to do something about it. And he immediately lambasted me and said, look, you had a stroke and you need to call 911 when that happens. I believe he called it a TIA event. Um, so I assured him that I would go to a medical clinic if the symptoms came up again. Sure enough, the next morning they did. I went into work, and in the process of telling my supervisor what had happened to me on the weekend, I started to display the slurred speech in front of him, and he noticed. He referred to it as me having Popeye mouth, where I was talking out of one side of my mouth. I noticed that I still do it a little bit now, so I'm conscious of it, hoping that that's something that on my new medical path I can fix as well. So I went to a medical clinic that morning. Immediately, my blood pressure was taken, and that walk-in doctor told me to immediately go to the emergency room. And I did. I hopped in an Uber and I went to the closest hospital, was checked in, had a blood pressure of, I think it was 160 or even 170. Could have been more than that. No, no, it was not. It was more than that. It was over 200, 200 over like 140. Crazy high blood pressure. They took my blood sugar. I was diabetic. They told me I was diabetic. And that was a number like 16 or 17, where the normal is usually 4 to 7. And all this stuff I was just learning about right then. I had always had an attitude that I could always avoid the hospital. In fact, even the night before this happened, I remember sitting out in the park and thinking about how old I am and how I never needed to go to the doctor. Well, clearly I was wrong, and clearly I was sending out a thought pattern uh, that ended up putting me there to begin with. But I have a longer story about that and the signs that I had that I was in trouble and me ignoring them, and now I'm coming around to analyzing my thoughts a bit more, and I would like to touch upon that at some point. But as per my hospital visit, I was there overnight. They wanted to keep me for 3 or 4 days, and I just was not in a headspace to do that. I wanted to get out of the hospital, and I wanted to find a way to fix what was wrong with me. Now, they gave me some prescription drugs. They put me on a statin, they put me on a high blood pressure medication, and they put me on diabetes medication and told me I would need to see a diabetic nurse or an endocrinologist. And I just went along with everything they said because I didn't, like I said, I didn't know any better. All I knew was my poor health all my life. Um, and in retrospect, now I'm glad that this event happened to me. It was a wake up call, and I want to share my story right now. Um, so I'm going to take a brief pause here, and then I'm going to come back with some more thoughts.